the front desk person comes to me and goes, the FAA is on the phone for you.
Like, what is a new BushWheel announcement? What do you mean? Like a different
it's
model
something we've
or
been working
something?
on for years.
You're coming out with a 45?
Can I get through customs? Well, I have to pay some dude off. I had a guy literally die right in front of me doing it.
Like you were witnessed?
Yeah, like 250 feet away. So the difference is in a certified market, I can't just go, look, it's the same rib. See? I have to like prove it out. I am on the bleeding edge of what I'm capable of doing that whole hunt.
Welcome to the Coffee in a Hangar podcast. My guest today is Shawn Mclaughlin, the CEO of Alaska Gear Company. About 11 years ago, Shawn bought Airframes Alaska, which was a very small manufacturer of Super Cub airframes. Today, he's grown that company to over 130,000 square feet of manufacturing facility and over 80 employees. He's here today to talk to us about some of the challenges of innovating certified aircraft parts and some of the projects he's working on, which may include an addition to the BushWheel lineup. I hope you enjoy the podcast. And remember, you can always go to coffeeinahangar.com, sign up for our email list, and stay informed about additions to the Coffee in a Hangar brand. Enjoy. This is the first podcast with these seats.
What are they from?
I'm not going to say until someone guesses. Someone's got to guess. One of my guests.
Wow, little crank ass. Whoa! Is it a beaver, an otter?
No. We should really start here.
Okay,
Welcome to my hangar.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you for coming.
I'm very happy.
Okay. So aviation, we were talking earlier, and you're like, I'm more of a business guy than an aviation guy. And I've heard that aviation is like the worst business to be in. So how do you call yourself a business guy?
Oh man, I'm gonna stop this interview right now. Aviation is a fundamental part of modern life, but it is a hard way to do a startup, right? So it's huge amounts of capital, huge amounts of time to your first dollar, highly regulated, life and death.
Yeah.
High science. You can't go, rip this thing and build something cool. And, the concept.
What's rip this thing? What do you mean?
Like, there's a lot of places where you can kind of just iterate on designs and do things and, when they're on the ground and you just keep making them better and better. But if you make a fundamental decision in the air, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
So so you need a lot of capital, a lot of time, a lot of education, a lot of experience. And it's hard to put all those things together. I think most people compare that to like a software business nowadays where you have your time and you can go rent time off of Amazon or Google or Microsoft. And you can start up with very little capital, your own idea, no rules. Compared to that, you have to be pretty much insane to start an aviation business versus a software business. Yeah, you have to be insane. So I really love it.
Guys like Lee Booty that started a business and fairly successcul as an individual that had a business that exited and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like
twice.
He kind of started with not much capital, I'm assuming, but he used all of himself.
He's a pretty smart guy. He bootstrapped into it over a period of time. He had a gap in the market.
In other words, there was a need that was just
but
filled.
Again, I would not use that. That's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
There are ways to start. So there's a lot of people in Alaska with great ideas, right? There's a lot of pilots, a lot of people that are creative, they're problem solving. They're in a cabin and they don't have something, so they have to MacGyver it. They come up with creative things. Turning that into a business is a very challenging endeavor. And I'd say probably 80% of people who try to turn a good idea into a business up here, probably 80% of them fail. They usually fail after spending a lot of money.
Yep.
I have a lot of those tough conversations with sort of
people that come to you and want to buy
them show up at my door, want to sell me what they built, even though they can't turn it into a product, and I have to tell them it's not worth anything. But there are some that make it. There's a couple of people up here that are kind of repeat STC people that have done some great work. I think the trick to it is, knowing how much money and time you're going to spend on it and calling, it's the whole thing of sunk costs, knowing when if you didn't make it by a certain period of time, probably stop. If you're digging into your 401k, your IRA, stop. But yeah, I'm an entrepreneur first.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be a pilot of some sort. I always wanted to be involved in aviation. My dad bought me Boeing stock when I was 2, and I still own it. I tried to build a helicopter when I was in my teenage years myself at my house. I never built it. But the thing about it
So
is,
what do you mean you built a helicopter?
so I used to read Popular Science magazine, and Popular Science magazine would have this whole ad section in the back with all these crazy things you could buy, like drawings and designs of things. And I found one for a 1-seater helicopter. It was a fascinating helicopter because it had, at the ends of the rotors, it had little jet engines on the ends.
Is that what powered it?
Yes. So you would basically start these little jet engines on the end of the rotor, which would whip the rotor around, but the motors, if you will, were on the edge of the rotor. But I found this thing as a teenager.
Was there a way to throttle them?
Yeah, you could. I think you basically manage the amount of fuel going to them, but then its fuel would centrifugally go up and then out the rotor. It was an insane design. But it caught my imagination, and I bought the designs, and then I tried to build it. And my mom.
So it wasn't a kit; it was blueprints.
It was blueprints. Yeah, blueprints for everything, and it had his crazy large rudder for counter torque.
How old were you?
I was probably 15 or 16. But yeah, so anyway, I always loved it. But I'm an entrepreneur, and so kind of when I touch stuff, it kind of turns into a business because I can't help it. Think of it that way.
Okay, so you were trying to do that. Never finished it though.
Thank God. My mom used to pray I'd never finish, and she knew I'd kill myself in it if I took off. So she was always hoping it would not pan out. But she was proud of me at one level, and at the other level, she's like, I hope that thing never leaves.
Of course,
yeah.
So did you then your life diverted away from aviation, and you didn't come back to it for a while?
That's right.
So you're doing business and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was in high school. I started a landscape business, went to college. I was ROTC in college. That all took up all my time. Yeah. So I just it faded away probably until I was in my 30s, early 30s. And then I finally moved to Alaska, and that's when I learned to fly.
Can you tell me about the story of you coming to Alaska, what brought you up here, and just go into as much or as little detail as you want?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking to sort of mix things up. So, but the story is, I went to Harvard.
Yep.
And my classmate in Harvard, and one of my best friends was a guy named Scott Mariner, who was from Alaska. He's one of 4 boys that grew up here.
Okay.
And, it was one of these things where all the way through, you're sitting in the lunchroom at school, and whatever you say, this guy Scott would go, well, in Alaska, blah, 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 blah. And he'd tell a story. And frankly, a lot of the stories ended up with him naked hunting and running through streams and things like that. But anyway, I digress.
Perfect.
But he we would tease him about it and he'd talk about it, but he kind of must have planted a seed in my head. So then fast forward my career, we both went in our different separate ways. And I've started software companies. I'm in software, and I'm at this 10-year itch point, which I tend to get. And I'm reading the Wall Street Journal one morning.
10-year itch?
10-year itch.
And when did you start?
You don't get exactly.
Oh, when did
10 years,
when did you start it?
Which one?
Alaska Gear Company.
Alaska Gear Company.
I mean, I know
it's gone through multiple iterations.
Right,
but the original acquisition was in 2008. Yeah, but it's gone through ebbs and falls since then. So yeah, I'm a little long in the tooth here. But anyway, the point is, I'm reading the Wall Street Journal one morning at my desk. I have great staff. The business is working well, and in there in the real estate section is a fishing lodge for sale in Alaska. And I hadn't thought about Alaska forever, but I see this thing, and I'm like, oh, well, and I'm reading about it. It sounds really cool to me, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'm like, oh, Scott, my friend Scott. I wonder if he got back to Alaska. So I literally look him up. I find him. I call him. I forget about the 4-hour time change. I wake up his wife, and his wife's name's Ruth. So she goes, hello. And I'm like, hello, who's this? And she goes, Ruth. And I'm like, so he did marry you. Happily, I'm not. So it's been years. And she's like, hello? Oh yeah, it's been years. So then I'm like, well, is Scott there? This and that. So I reconnect with Scott. And I'm like, Scott, I just found a lodge I might buy. I'm going to come up to Alaska. Let's catch up. So I go to Alaska. I bring my oldest daughter with me, and we turned into a big adventure. And I brought the president of my company and his oldest kid, and we kind of made a trip of it. And we came up here and went to the auction for the lodge. We didn't buy it, but we went fishing in Cooper Landing and Quartz Creek. And I just came back home, and I'm like, hey, Laura, we're going to move to Alaska. She ignored me. But I kind of just had this planted seed that, well, this would be really cool to like do something totally different and get out of it. And at that time I was sick of the East Coast. I'd done very well in software. Everyone wanted a piece of me and wanted me to do different things. And I was just like, I think I want to go somewhere and have a new adventure. The weird story is, so I got all ready to come to Alaska, and then I got recruited into a program in government. So I actually ended up it took me a little more time to get here than I'm describing, because I went to work in Washington, D.C. for a while, moved my family to Virginia, and then did that stint for a while, and then moved here. So I sort of like, my wife, Laura, knew I was getting more serious about it. And then in the middle of this, I got recruited for this program, and then I told her about it. She's like, we're doing that. So she's like, go get that. So then I did that for a while, but I just needed to do something different at that point. So I went on sabbatical for my own company, left it in the hands of my COO, and we went to Virginia first, and then ultimately moved here after that.
When you came to Alaska, you weren't a pilot.
No, I had taken some lessons.
Okay, so but you still have this itch of aviation that never goes away, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And did you start purposefully looking for aviation companies to buy, or was that purposeful, or was that like, oh, there's this thing for sale, hey, that sounds fun?
It's a crazy story. This is one I haven't really told that much, but what happens is this. I've now connected with my buddy from college. I get recruited to go to DC. I'm now restricted from, I'm restricted from doing anything in the markets because of the position I have.
Okay.
So I'm talking.
So it's like conflict of interest
stuff.
Okay.
So I basically say, I say to my friend Scott, I go, look, I'm going to do this stint here in DC, but after that I'm moving to Alaska. If you see anything interesting up there business-wise, specifically aviation, I can't be involved, but if you find something, and I'll work with you on it when I get up there.
And Scott is the guy that you went to college with.
Scott's the guy I went to college with.
Got it.
So he finds Lee Booty.
Okay.
And he's like, well, I found the perfect company for you to buy. And it's this, and here's why. And at the time, Scott was rebuilding a Cub. So he was into the whole space himself and just kind of rabid about it, loving it, and getting all excited about it. So he's like, I found the perfect company you should buy. And I'm like, okay, well, then, talk to this guy, he'll send you the money and go buy it. So he buys Lee Booty's.
So did you do any due diligence or anything?
I did none. I couldn't even be, I had to be like, separated from it. So Scott does the whole thing and buys it.
And is he very knowledgeable about this stuff?
He's a genius.
Okay. And is he a business guy?
Do I think business drives him? No, but is he good at it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So he buys it.
So he buys the company.
Yeah.
I show up like 3 years later, and he's been running it, and it's kind of a mess, honestly. And it's a mess for a lot of reasons, but one of the big problems originally was he buys this company, but the handoff was not very good, and it's a super complicated product. So Airforms back then, their main product was it's called Airframes Incorporated back then. Its main product was the P-18 Super.
Now, did he have two separate businesses, Airforms and Airframes, or did he just sell off and then rename his?
That's what he did. He sold off and renamed.
Smart guy.
So he was a very smart. When I looked at the transaction afterwards, I'm like, this guy Lee's pretty smart.
Can you talk? You mentioned Lee, and like people are watching and maybe they're in aviation, but they don't know who Lee is.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about Lee?
Lee is a classic. He is, I think, he's a voracious reader and thinker, and I think mostly self-taught. He knew how to weld, he figured out engineering. And before that, he was a fish spotter. I know that about him. So he was a pilot himself. And he'd built this business to build P-18 fuselages in Alaska, which is a Herculean, it's a crazy project. I mean, to do it all from scratch and build them, but he did it, and he got an STC. And, one of the things about working in Alaska and general aviation is we have a great FAA office here that really helps out small businesses, stuff like that. And you get a lot of help from them. And he was churning out when I bought it, he was churning out these fuselages. He had 5 welders in his garage, and he was banging it out at his homestead in Big Lake. And
how many was he turning out?
I don't know the exact numbers. You'd have to ask Lee that. But I know what happened is once we bought it, we were turning out like 1/5 of what he had been turning out, which is the problem the business.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was really cranking it. But when one of the things is if you're the founder, so it's a function of the time, him being the founder, us being the second owner. There's things you can do when you're sort of small And then when you try to scale and you try to change ownership of something like an STC and you try to get PMA, things get pretty complicated pretty quickly, where there were certain things that I think he sort of grandfathered in, or he was, he was like the first mover.
Yeah.
And so when we got all wound up in how do we move this facility? How do we get PMA? PMA is the right to actually build a product that the FAA says you can, but then you have to have a process to prove you can make it repeatably. It's called PMA. And so we got caught up in all that. We had to build, we had to go buy a hangar, move the business, move a million parts. We had to.
So you still have the PMA. There's two parts of the PMA, right? You have the right to make, or
there's PMA. Yeah.
You have the facility is what you needed. You had the other part.
Yeah. So you kind of buy the guy's license to make the part, but then you need a facility that can make it repeatedly.
And you get that facility approved.
And and this is, we had to move the whole thing out of his garage. So we had to basically start that from scratch. And you literally get to plot out where every part is stored, how you manufacture, where parts come in, where you put things that get quarantined. It's a big project. So I come home and the business is tanked. And I remember walking around the Alaska State Fair with Scott, and he's telling me the business is tanking. And I'm like, do we have insurance to build these plane parts? I go, we're making airplane parts. And he's like,
you're 3 years in, you're asking for the insurance?
He's like, we can't get insurance to build. Like, we're too small. No one's going to insure this part. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me the business is tanking. Yeah, we don't have insurance. I'm like, how not? So I was ready to write the investment off.
Yeah.
But, but it's still fascinating to me. And by the way, I come home, I'm learning to fly helicopters first. I learned Cub second. And then.
So you bought a business.
Yeah.
You were like me. I bought the hangar, then I bought the airplane.
I
bought the business, then you got your...
Yeah, and at this point, I owned a hangar. The business was running out of BushWheel. And so I owned this hangar. I had this business. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm out. So I go to the staff of the business with Scott, and I kind of go, you guys can have the business for $1. But you have to pay me rent on the hangar I own. And I'll give you, this will be your rent structure over the next 3 years as you build the business back up. And you guys just take the business from me.
Wow.
I hand him the keys. And actually the way it all went down, I've never told the story actually, I think publicly, but so I handed the business to him and I walk away and the guy's like, sure. And they move in and they start doing the business, but they're not business people. So they run it for a while. Univer comes in and tries to buy the STC from them, and then they quickly go, oh, we want to sell it to Univer. Like they're ready to bail and just take the work that I bought from Lee Booty, sell it to Univer. But
did they have a right to do that under the contract that you had?
They could have, but I had a lease. So the lease was a standing liability that they still had. So in other words, my lease sort of trumped the sale to Univer because the amount of money they would have had to hand it to me on the lease. So the deal falls apart, and the guy calls me up and says, I don't want the business anymore because the key's back.
Wow.
So they had basically taken in deposits, hadn't built fuselages. It was an absolute disaster. But at this point now, I'm a pilot. I'm looking at it going, how hard could this business be? Like, it can't be that hard. So one day I just kind of go to my wife, we have this business. I'm just going to go in and see what's going on. So I walk into this hangar. They're all gone. And I've come to find out the guy had been building speakers for cars. Like, people want the cars, they're going to go, all that kind of stuff. He'd been like welding shit like that. And, it was clear why the business wasn't working. Let's put it that way. But I'm like, so I go in and the phone's ringing. There's stuff everywhere. And there's no one there.
It's like a scene from a movie. You walk in, the phone's ringing.
Yeah, it was that crazy.
Airframes Alaska.
I literally picked it up. And back then
it was
called Northern Airframes, I think, back then. So I picked it up and I'm kind of like talking to Scott. And I'm like, I think I can, why not? Why can't I spend my time on something? Why not just, I can figure this out.
So were you just basically retired at this point?
Yeah. I mean.
What were you doing with your time?
So I mean, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, I built a company and I did very well, right? So, so pretty much at this point in my career, I left the company to my COO. I'd gone to work in government. While I was in government, an offer had come in for the company. I'm basically sequestered from the deal. The new CEO says, it's a good deal. We're going to do it. A couple people come visit me in DC. The next thing I know, my company's sold. But anyway, the point is this. This happens.
The company sells.
The company sells. Like, yeah, I'm basically, I don't have to work at that point. So I came up here, I bought an RV, I bought all the crazy stuff. I learned to fly. I was camping all the time with my kids, doing near-death fun experiences in Alaska. I was ripping it. I was doing everything. I just went down a laundry list of things you want to do in Alaska.
Yeah.
I learned how to do them all. And I was having fun. But at some point, there'd be lulls between the adventures, and then the kids had to go back to school. And so there was a point at which I just started optimizing. At one point, do you know the roller skating rink in downtown Anchorage? You ever seen the roller skating rink with a big roller skate?
Oh yeah, it's like on the old sewer.
That was for sale back then.
Mm-hmm.
These are one of my crazy things. This is when my wife kind of hit the wall on it, which was like, at one point, I live way up in the mountains, so the commute is sort of this 2,000 foot altitude climb and descent to get to doing it in and out of Anchorage. And I had this wild idea. I had a lot of kids. I'm like, that roller derby, whatever it is, came up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to my wife and go, I'm buying the roller skating rink. I'm going to turn it into like this clubhouse for the kids. And what we'll do is when they're down in the city, we'll use the roller skating rink. They can bring their friends, this and that. But that way we only have to go up and down the hill once a day. You have to keep commuting back and forth. And I'm going to turn it into this party town thing. And I had this whole crazy idea. At which point my wife said, you need to get a job. And she explained to me that she doesn't mind commutes. She doesn't mind carpools. She gets to know her kids during the carpools. And that it's not a problem I need to solve. But I had whipped myself into a frenzy thinking I should buy this roller skating rink and turn it into sort of this halfway point for the kids' existence.
That is like an insane idea.
I just had the same idea.
Crazy.
So at this point, she's like, you need to get a job.
It'll save you so much time, by the way.
Oh,
having a business that you have to run while you're...
So she's like, you got to go. And by the way, I was doing 20 other things too at the same time.
Okay.
I bought houses out of foreclosure, and I bought condo projects I finished. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. But this was by no means the only thing I was doing. So she's like, you got to go get a job. Like, you got to get out of the house. You got to stop optimizing optimizing the family situation is not a good idea. Like, the messiness of family is actually fundamental to kids learning. But anyway, she's like, you need to get a job. So then I'm like, this is about the same time. I kind of pour myself back into this business. I rebrand it. That's when it becomes Airframes Alaska. There was one guy left in there that was sort of still pounding around. The marshal showed up one day and just arrested him. He just disappeared. But he was the only guy there. So I know some of the guys that used to be there. I call them back up and say, will you come back and work for me? And thankfully, a couple of them do. One really great guy, Paul Gray. I never met Paul Gray.
Oh, yes.
And so Paul Gray came back and worked with me, and a guy named John Marcus, who was a great welder. I was able to get these guys to come back, and I'm like, let's start unraveling this thing and figuring it all out. And by then, the thing was hundreds of thousands in the hole because they'd burned through all their deposits, hadn't finished any fuselages. Paperwork was all a mess, and you need paperwork to do a certified fuselage. It was a mess. But I just kind of start whittling through it, and I learned the business. And in the middle of it all, the FAA did an audit.
Nice.
And I'd never been through an FAA audit. And I remember trying to prep for it. And it was just this epic moment where the FAA was I think they were looking at me like, who is this guy? And, and I basically bombed the audit, but you can fix, when you bomb an audit, you can fix it. So I kind of got the business back running again. And then as I looked at it, I'm like, okay, now I need to grow it. Like, the next thing about the business is you got to grow it. And that's how I got that's what's become Gear Company today. So I just started the process of saying, all right, what's my market? What else can I do? How do I get pricing power? Where am I, what are my market shares? How do I grow the market shares? And just really started pounding on that. And, so it was probably doing 150K back then, when I started.
In revenue?
In revenue.
Wow. That's,
we're like a $22 million company today. So
yeah, that 150K can support like a half of an employee.
Yeah, it was basically in the dumps, and it had negative net worth for sure at the time. But I kind of felt like it's worthy of my time. I like it. By this time, I'm into aviation. I love the stories. I love the people coming in, meeting the people that are doing the work. I'm flying the planes. And it just kept my mind going, just occupied. And then I kept hiring people, hired some great people. I mean, it's all about the people you bring in to build a team. And I was able to build a good team, notwithstanding the guy who got arrested by a marshal and disappeared. But you know, it was this whole history of that.
Yeah. So when you made that decision to do this as your job, when your wife tells you got to have a job and stuff, did you do the math on like how many people are building Super Cubs in the world?
I did. I pulled
and
down.
go, well, this will be $250K in revenue a year. I'd be like, what?
Yeah. I pulled down the FAA database to find out how many PA-18s there were. And I just did, you know, it's a big database. You can pull down every airplane in the air in the United States.
And the math is easy, right? With the PA-18s, it's like, well, they wreck them every 2 years. So however many there are.
Well, they don't. There's different, I've learned, there's different flavors of flyers. But
totally.
And that tells you.
So the Alaskans.
That tells you the U.S. market, and you can break it down by state. So, you know, you can get a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that exercise, but it wasn't.
It wasn't a decision-making exercise? Or what?
You know, the way I describe our business today is that we occupy massively micro markets, basically. And this is one of the challenges. So I joke and say, I'm always trying to build the cohort of our company. So people, the eligible customers of our company, I'm always trying to build that because I
increase the number of eligible. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm famous for telling this story. I kind of go through the segments with my staff going, okay, who is our primary cohort? People who like to fly a plane from 1950 in the middle of nowhere and land when there's no runway.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
How's 250?
How many people is that? Then I go, Northern Sled Works. I go, people who want to sled around at minus 60, snow machine, probably have a cabin, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
How many people is that? And then I go, and then
200.
Arctic ovens. I go, people who want to camp at minus 60. The middle. I go,
so you have the same 200 people, and you're just trying to extract their life out of them.
Yeah, and it is a massive overlap. When I bought those second two companies, and you look at the client list, 60% overlap.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was like, that's why it makes sense, right? But I was looking at like, but the neat thing about the cohorts we were in is that we had greater than 75% market share in them. Mm-hmm. So the key thing about those markets is I have some pricing power. Alaska is the authority. Mm-hmm. We don't have competitors. Mm-hmm. And we can turn that into a business. Now, how big a business, I don't know, but my theory was I could turn that into some sort of business.
Yeah, when you're like talking about in business about like scaling and stuff, I always thought that meant you're going to sell this, your market is billions of people or millions of people. This is, if you're scaling on this, it's like,
it's pretty,
your market's thousands of people.
And I can make the story even worse.
Yeah. Perfect.
We have insurance nowadays, but no one wants to insure this market because people are doing insane things with aircraft.
Yeah.
Everybody who's ever owned a plane knows that. But it's even worse if you're a part manufacturer. You then add to that, it's old tech. You're working on this rag and tube aircraft. Like in the world of drones and quadcopters and jets, you're like, it's a very weird space to be in. The number of Cubs is going down, not up. So it's a declining market. You know, every year a few more disappear.
Is that true? Is that true, by the way? I mean, aren't more experimental ones being built than ever before right now?
So we're certified. We make
but someone can build an experimental airplane with one of your fuselages.
They could, but they don't, because you can go to Javron and get, a cheaper fuselage that's not certified. So the reality of it is, or a lot of people that are doing experimental, they want to build their own, or they want to take yours and hack it up, and you can't do that with certified fuselage, really. So it's like, there are people like that, and there's a space there that people are building, but it's not our space. And by the way, if I were to get into experimental, I'm now competing against 20 companies. Mm-hmm. And now,
right now, how many people are building certified?
There's three companies.
Fuselages.
There's three companies that build certified fuselages, but we have well over 90% market share. Well over. I mean, I can't even imagine what it is at this point. So we run a steady backlog. We're always busy making fuselages, and we make the best fuselage. We make the lightest fuselage, the most features. Our welders are practically artisans. I mean, it's an artisan fuselage. It's the best fuselage out there.
I'm not going to debate you. I think that there's a lot of things about it that are good, and I've never built a Cub, so I don't have any.
The original fuselage was lighter. I think it's like 4 pounds lighter, generally speaking.
Right.
But the original fuselage, there's ADs. You got to add all that stuff back in. You got to do all kinds of things because it's going to wear itself out.
Okay.
You got no cross brace, above your head. There's all kinds of stupid things that you're going to put in there. So ours is a pretty good balance of that, and the way we weld adds a lot less weld to the aircraft, so it's lighter. No, but I mean, the market's already said we're the best. Like, I don't have to debate that.
Well, yeah, and
that's the great thing about business. I don't need to debate it with you. I've won. It's in the
dude, I love it.
It's in the numbers.
No, and you have, I think that your competitors, their struggle is probably staffing. I bet you there's a lot.
Yeah, there's
struggle with that.
I think I have two competitors. Univer makes fuselage, and then there's a Dakota Cub makes a fuselage every now and then. So we're the only company that makes a four-place. We're the only, Dakota Cub makes a wide body, sort of, but we're the only one that makes a wide body. That whole, we are that market.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at this point, one of the terms they use, we're too big to fail. We're too important to fail. Like, I can't stop making fuselages because if I do, there won't be any. And people,
So
year.
The thing I talked to you this morning a little bit about something a lot of people say, I mean, from my perspective, is, oh, what the heck? They're making sleds now, they're making tents. There's not an aircraft parts place, And it's like, hey, it doesn't have to be limited. It's not like Shawn Mclaughlin does not have a scarcity mindset. It's not like, well, we're making tents, so we can't make parts. You know what I mean? And so with your business, you've expanded into all kinds of things. I love the idea that there's this Alaska company that's come in, that's investing in the state, that's investing in giving people jobs, and that you're creating these products, and you have some cool products. But yeah, there's people out there that are like, well, what? You're supposed to be making airplane parts. But you are making a lot of more airplane parts. How many parts do you have certified that you're manufacturing?
I don't even know. A lot. I mean,
100?
So
is it 100?
It's more than hundreds. It's way more than that. I don't even know the number. I've lost track. But
yeah,
look, I know what you're talking about. There's a certain element that, and this is part of the Alaskan ethos, which is that if I turned this into a business, I somehow cheapened it. That I try to turn it into a real bit. So if I kept it as a sole prop, kept it as something that, I'm one guy there with, welding every day, making one fuselage at a time in the back of Alaska, that it's more legit. That when I try to monetize it, it cheapens it in some way or is less Alaskan. And I get that. I think that's part of the, sort of the Alaskan story of how people view things up here. But there's just as many people that go, hey, I'm rooting for you. This is great. I'm glad we got our own company up here that does this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not trying to get this from some other state, because we're the boss on it. Right?
Yeah.
So but there always are some people that sort of kind of passively aggressively don't like the fact that I've turned it into a business. But if it's like when I bought Alaskan BushWheel and brought it back to Alaska. It was an Alaskan invention. Had moved to Oregon. I don't know how people perceive that. I mean, I just
perceive what
perceive what I'm doing. I mean, I'm building
bringing an Alaskan brand back to Alaska.
I mean, I think that should be a good.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? Exactly. That was actually my wife's doing. I wasn't.
You just come in from Washington or wherever you're from and just show up.
Yeah.
Walk around. Go
East
back.
Coast guy.
Go back to East Coast.
No,
but you're like actually up here now, right?
Yeah, I've been up here.
I'm trying to make you look good here. You're from here, right?
I'm from. I guess. Yeah, I have kids that are born here, right?
Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about flying because it's an airplane podcast.
Should we? Is it an airplane podcast?
Yeah, I think we should. And then I want you to show me some of the stuff the new stuff that you have, and tell me the stories of those products. I think that's really interesting.
Okay.
So you got your helicopter license first,
yeah.
And then when did you start flying fixed wing?
Right after that.
So you just kind of
rolled right into it, and it was pretty quick.
And what ratings did you end up with?
I've only have private ratings on both, so I've just got rotor and fixed wing.
And are you a bush pilot?
No.
Thank you, God.
Yeah,
I'm so glad that you said no to that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've worked with the best at this point. I know, and I've worked and I've flown with unbelievable bush pilots, enough to know that I'm not a bush pilot. And I think most Cub pilots pretty much suck, probably, if you compare them to like Paul Claus, Kirk. I mean, I'm not going to go through a list because I'll leave somebody out. But I've flown with these people where the whole plane is an extension of their existence, like they're mind melding with the thing. I've watched Kirk Ellis fly a four-place at like 20 miles an hour over the ground with like 2 feet of plane stick. And his hands are going like this, and the plane's just sitting in almost stall. And I'm just sitting there going, what the hell? Like, I've been there enough to know that, and when I fly, I have extreme anxiety about what I'm doing. I've done it all. I've done the crazy things, probably more than I should have.
Like what's a crazy thing?
Hey guys, we'll be right back to the podcast after this, but first I'd like to talk to you about how you can help support us in making more content like this. As many of you know, this program is self-funded, meaning I pay for the editing and production costs myself. So if you want to support us, you can go to my company's website, sportaircraftseats.com. We make seat upholstery kits for airplanes, and the following video explains one of the safety benefits of using our system.
What if I told you that someone had done a structural repair on your aircraft, had never told you, your mechanic did not know about it, and it was not logged in your logbooks? Now, of course, as a seat upholstery guy, I'm talking about something relating to the seats of your aircraft. If you have a Cessna aircraft, one of the old 180s or early 172, that airplane is nearly 70 years old, and a lot of those seats have never been upholstered. But here's the other thing. The ones that have been upholstered, a lot of times the mechanic and the owner never inspected the seat frame. You may think, well, how is this possible? What happens is owners of aircraft, they take their seats out of the airplane and they take it to an upholstery shop and they say, here, reupholster my seats. And here's a guy that normally does boats and couches and furniture. But a lot of times they tear the old upholstery shop off, and guess what? They find damage in there. Damage that the owner didn't know about because it was covered by upholstery, and they repair it because they're trying to get the job done and get it out the door. And so the owner shows up 3 weeks later and picks up their beautiful seats, puts them in the airplane, goes flying. This sounds like a crazy scenario, but is definitely a scenario that happens way more than you would think. Now, why do they never get inspected? Is it because of mechanic neglect? Not necessarily. We all know about the Cessna seat rail AD. That AD was created because the seats were sliding back on the seat rails at the most inopportune time. That has killed multiple people. But that AD does not cover Piper seats, which could have the same issue, and it doesn't cover other parts of the seat frame. It only covers the part of the seat frame that attaches to the seat rail and the seat rail itself. But there are a lot of structural components to that seat that never get inspected. The problem is that most upholstery completely covers the seat frame. It covers parts of the seat frame that should never be obscured. For example, where the backrest pivots to the frame. That is a very critical point, and in a lot of seats, it's completely covered up by the upholstery. I'm going to show you some examples of this, and then I want to talk about the solution. This is the most outrageous example I have of what is your upholstery hiding. A customer literally brought me this seat and wanted me to upholster it. And once I tore the old upholstery off, this is what I found. One of the most common breaks that I see is when holes have been drilled on the front side of a seat frame, and then they put screws, sheet metal screws into it to hold on like a plate or something. And as you can see, if it's on the front of the seat frame, that is going to crack like 100%. So imagine your seats broke in that way, and now you have extra stress on where these holes are. It could all lead to something catastrophic. I want to talk to you about the way upholstery should be done. You should have your mechanic strip the frames, inspect the frames, repair the frames, and then paint them and ready them for the new upholstery. And then your mechanic should be the one installing the new upholstery, or you with your mechanic's approval and supervision. And that is where we come in. We make seat upholstery kits that are so easy to install that literally anyone with any skill level can do it in 5 to 10 minutes per seat. In addition to being easy to install, it eliminates the problem of future inspection. Number one, the upholstery does not cover up critical parts of the frame that should be inspected regularly. I'm talking like pre-flight regularly. Number two, It is so easy to remove and reinstall the upholstery without damaging the upholstery because of how our system works, that a mechanic can take the seat upholstery off while the seat is still in the airplane and put it back on in 5 to 10 minutes. Go to sportaircraftseats.com. You can design and order your seats right there. We have a library of installation and instructional videos, and every order you place helps support future episodes of the Coffee in a Hangar podcast. Let's get back to the podcast.
I've done the crazy things, probably more than I should have.
Like what? What's a crazy thing?
Well, my friend and I, Scott, have on many, many occasions, we fly and go hunting in the Brooks Range, North Slope, really, basically west of Galbraith. And we fly all the way up there, and we spend 2 weeks up there hunting. And we're flying in and out of the wilderness where, really no one's been. And we're landing in sketchy places where, if we crack it up and ball it up, we're stuck.
Okay. Follow-up question on that then. As someone that do you do that every year?
Not every year, but I'd probably say.
Are you planning on doing this again?
I'm not. Yes, but not this coming year.
Okay, so how many hours do you fly that Cub during the year?
That's the problem. I fly. So I'm probably at like 1,300 hours in helicopters, and I'm probably at like 450 or 500 in a Cub, and I'm not. So I've crashed a Cub too, but I am on the bleeding edge of what I'm capable of doing that whole hunt.
What does that mean, bleeding edge?
Like
you're almost going to...
I fall asleep counting the number of landings and takeoffs I need to do to get home safe. Like in my head, I'm like, okay, I made another 10 today. The plane still runs. Conk. And then I'm like, the next day I'm like, okay, I got 6 more to do.
You're like counting, Fairbanks.
No, I don't. Airport runway landings, I don't count those. But I'm going to crash land.
You're going to land
another 9 times.
Do 4 more trips hauling me.
Yeah, I got more hauling me. I got all these people to take in and out of the field. And what Scott and I tend to do is we're like the pilots for a huge group of people. So we're like, I don't really hunt. I'm just basically ferrying people around and landing and
not charging them, of course.
No. There's all like our kids. It's like we're getting the kids the first moose, first bear, stuff like that. So
yeah. How do you prepare for that then? You go out for a month?
I usually go out and do my biannual with Steve Williams.
Okay.
And Steve Williams will be literally on the phone, crashing me into I've landed in the Kinnick. He's like cut my power, and I've had to land in on the islands in Kinnick.
So he puts you through the paces?
He puts me through the paces, and I try to do that, and then I go out, and I'm freaking out the whole time. Like my brain is on fire. I sometimes still wake up in the middle of the night with like some fever dream, remembering some stupid landing I did.
I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you do something really dumb, and you're like, yeah, that could have killed me.
That could have killed me. Oh, I made it out all right.
Just go, oh.
There was one where I'll never forget, on one hunt way back in there, I picked the landing spot, but it was a horrible landing spot, and it was this J-hook in final.
Dude, what are you doing?
Well, it was a stupid thing, but I landed short and landed in the river, and I stopped in like 15 feet, and I thought I was a freaking genius.
Oh, you did, but it was by accident.
But I landed in the water. The water just slammed me down. And then I'm like, who's your daddy? Look at my landing. And I was like, no, I missed my spot. I landed in the freaking water.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I jacked up a stone. A pretty big stone that went into my stabilizer, and I had a monster dent in my stabilizer. So the rest of the hunt, I'm like trying to steer this thing, and it won't. Nothing's.
Well, maybe we should cut that out so he doesn't get in trouble.
Oh yeah,
that's illegal.
Cut that out then. Cut that out. You're right. So you gotta cut that out.
Don't cut it out.
But anyway, you can figure out what you want to put in. But
I'm gonna just leave it in. We'll leave it in.
I can tell you a great aviation story.
Go ahead.
But I can't put it on. I don't think I can put it on the story.
Why not?
It's a legit story. I guess I can tell it. So here's a great story.
Does the FAA know about this?
Oh yeah.
Okay, then you can tell it. You can tell it if the FAA knows.
So I am not a bush pilot. I am not a great Cub pilot. I have done enough of it myself to respect the space. Mm-hmm. I've met the geniuses that do it, and I've flown with them, and I love working for them.
Yeah.
Right. That's my gig. But a great little aviation Shawn story is, so I'm at work one day at work in Palmer, and my wife says, "Hey, you're going to
work?" Is this a bikini one?
Yeah. Have you heard the story already? Okay, should I tell the story or not?
Does the FAA know about it? So sorry. I didn't think it was a bikini one. So I'm sorry for. No,
I'll
we
tell
can cut
you. Want
that
to
out.
sell it or
So
not?
anyway, keep going.
Okay. So this is my life. I mean, so I'm leaving, and my wife says, "Well, you know, are you leaving right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm about to leave." And she's like, "Well, I'm at my friend's house. It's beautiful out, and we're all in our bikinis on the deck. You should buzz us."
Mm.
And they're up on the hillside somewhere, and so I'm like, "Okay." So I know where the house is. All right, I'll buzz you. So anyway, I'm flying home. I get to this house, and there's my wife and her friend. They're frantically yelling at me in their bikinis and stuff. So I swoop in and I swoop out, and I just swoop in, and then I head home. And they're like, my wife's like, "Oh, that was great. That was so much fun."
Oh, sure.
The next day, I'm back at work, and the front desk person comes to me and goes, "The FAA is on the phone for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And, you know, they called me for a lot of things. So I wasn't really sure what it was.
Yeah, you're like, whatever. It's
And so, and I'm like,
different branch of the FAA than what normally calls
yeah,
you,
so
I think.
so this guy comes on, and he goes, "Were you flying your R-44 in this area, you know, the other day?" And I'm like, "Yes, I was." He goes, "Okay, do you want to tell me anything about that flight? You know, were you close to ground or anything like that?" I said, "Look," I said, "I'm going to level with you. My wife called me. She said she was in a bikini. She wanted me to buzz her and her friend. And I obliged, and I went home." I go, "So what happens to me now?"
Is that really how you said it?
Yeah. I'm like, "So what happens now?" And he looks at me and goes, no one ever tells me the real story." And he goes, "I thank you for your candor." He goes, "You and I should never have this conversation again. Like, I don't want to hear you did this thing again." I'm like, "Yes, sir." I go, "Is that it?" And he goes, "Yeah, this time that's it." And he let me go. And so I'm now very careful about who I buzz.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting you said that, because I had an FAA guy on here, and we were talking about this minimum safe altitude thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when he was talking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe I don't really understand these rules.
They're a lot higher.
Because Alaska is sort of the norm is to buzz people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like known.
And in a helicopter,
since then, on Instagram, I'm like, that guy's going to get busted at some point if he keeps posting these. I mean, everyone's posting buzz videos.
I'll just be honest. So I live at 2,400 feet, and
which is, you're right above sea level.
So
yeah.
So you're like sea level to 2,400.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where I live. All the customers that we sell stuff to know where I live. I probably get buzzed at my house once a week during the summer. And sometimes they'll go, sometimes they'll text me and go, "Coming by hot in like 5 minutes." And then all my kids run out on the deck. The problem with the one I got in trouble with, well, you know, is that the neighbor got pissed. Right?
Yeah.
So
you,
you know, that's what happened to me, is a neighbor called me in and read my tail number off.
But that doesn't happen at your place?
I don't call anybody in, no.
No, but I mean, your neighbors don't call people in?
My neighbors love aircraft.
Okay.
And I think in most places they do. I think, as a matter of fact, they love it. Like a lot of, you know, we have a neighborhood group chat, and, you know, there's a lot of cool, you know, we have, it is sort of like outside the city limits, but you know, again, it's not right. I don't know where that is in that sort of Alaska line. There's probably a line that's getting sharper and sharper over time, but
I think the more people that get into aviation and that see people doing that and think, "Oh, I'm going to do that," without knowing sort of the dues that were paid. What I mean by that is some of these guys that appear to be, I guess, reckless. This is probably a bad word, but they appear to be that way from someone that's new. The new person doesn't understand what they've gone through to be safe in those situations.
Right.
And when you have a camera on or you have someone watching you, your judgment, it screws your judgment up. Totally screws your judgment up.
Does, yeah.
And if it doesn't, you're probably not the kind of person that even wants to do that. You know what I mean?
No,
like your ego, if it doesn't screw your judgment up, that means you don't have the ego for it. And if you don't have the ego for it, you're probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan of it in general, but
I feel, you know, You just described it perfectly. I mean, there's a like flying, bush flying. It's a cultural experience in Alaska. There are rules. I think that, I think this guy was pretty kind with me, right?
Oh,
I mean,
of course.
I think he kind of understands the market up here. He wants to keep things tight, but he also, has to do his job. And I feel like there's a good balance in Alaska of that right now. It's probably tending another way over time because they always do. But anyway, what else do you want to talk about? Tell me the bikini story.
Yeah, you told me the good flying story. So you were talking about how you prepare and you go with Steve. Do you go out and practice and stuff, or are you just like
No, I'll go practice.
send it?
So I will go practice. I'm like everybody else. I head out to Kinnick and just keep banging it out. I have a cabin out near the Talatchilitten and the Tal River too, and so I'll go practice there, and because no one will get mad if
You have like a tundra strip there or something?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll go there and practice. I can do 20. I won't piss anybody off, My daughter owns a cabin at Hewitt Lake with its own runway. I'll go practice there, and I just, I'll just keep marking it out and see if I can figure it out.
So you stay within your lane in a sense in that flying.
Yeah, I mean, I've done things where, I've flipped a Cub. When I'm on these hunts with my buddy, like, I'm pretty much on the edge of my ability the whole time. I mean, it's epic. But I know from the way I feel that I'm not a bush pilot. Like because I've been in the same scenario.
Do you push weather? You don't push weather out there, do you? Sorry.
I try not to push weather, but sometimes weather has pushed me.
Okay.
And that's the thing, even in the helicopter where you can, people think you can kind of stop, turn around, flip, you really can't do that.
Right.
Things happen so fast.
Yeah.
That I try not to. My wife, of course, doesn't want me doing any of that kind of stuff. But sometimes it happens to you.
The wives don't watch this, by the way. You can say anything.
Yeah, I can say anything I want. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
but I was going to learn how to sling line out of a helicopter, and then I had a guy literally die right in front of me doing it, and
like you were witnessed someone else doing it.
Yeah, like 250 feet away. And this guy was really good at it. And I'm like, I shouldn't be sling lining. So I literally I had lessons all planned out. I had a sling line. I had a hook on my helicopter. I just recognized in myself that I won't ever do it enough to be safe doing it. And I'm not going to half-ass doing that. So, I have a limit in there.
Do you, as someone that's really successful in one thing, I think that's why doctors have trouble.
Yeah.
Is that they're like really successful as a doctor and they're used to telling people exactly what to do and being an authority figure. And then they get in a cockpit and they want to be the same way. And instead of, it's like almost, this is my theory, but like they don't feel like they need to pay their dues to learn that in a sense.
It's more than that though, Daniel. It's like what they fail to see is that it's not just learning. It's like Steve always says, your license is a license to learn. It's like, it's an art form. Like at the end of the day, if you haven't done 10,000 hours, you don't know what you're doing. You're skating along, on some.
10,000 hours or some number, whatever the number is.
You're on some probability curve of messing everything up. And I think that's what's missing. What I've learned about this space and what I like about doing it is I view myself as being almost a steward of these STCs for these people who fly them and do amazing things in them.
Yeah.
And I love keeping that going. And, I've noticed that, there's also these young tucks, like the young guys buying Cubs, like in the 18, 19, putting, squabbling everything together and building their own Cub and flying for the first time. I love working with those kids. Those kids are amazing pilots.
Yep.
Because they've been doing it from such a young age. They make mistakes. They crash stuff. That kind of makes them better long term as long as they survive.
Yeah.
But I think the part with the doctor is just they can't be all in.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of getting at with you. I wanted to touch on that, which is you don't have time to be good. It seems like.
Yeah, I don't have time to be good.
Right.
That's one way. And I'm too old to be good. I don't think you can learn as you get older. I don't think you can build that same kind of synapse.
Do you think I'm too old? Maybe.
What?
Am I too old? I think too old. I mean, I'm just barely starting out.
You should put good parameters about what you do because you got two young kids. Family. You gotta put parameters around.
My thought on that flying for myself is that I'm never going to be professional. Obviously, I mean not obviously, but
Yeah.
That's not something I want to do, but I do want to be as good at it as I can. If I'm going to go do off airport stuff, I want to be honed.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
when I operate, I want to operate within a margin. Yeah. That's what, when you say, when you go hunting, that you're right on the edge, I don't like that. I don't like hearing that. You know, I want to hear you say, yeah, when I like hone my skills and then I back off on where I'll land to where I'm within a margin. That's what I want to hear you say. But I don't know.
The way I think of it,
Yeah.
and it's kind of teasing it out of my business world, which is I don't mind being all in or on the ragged edge of what my abilities are, as long as I know I'm on the ragged edge of where I am. Like, in other words, if I'm running hot, as long as I know, I don't want to ever not know that I'm running hot, like get into that sort of frenzied place where you don't really quite know what's happening.
So is your version of that like, okay, this strip, I need to be 100% focused when I go to land? Is that your version of that?
Yeah.
Because I really like being in that place.
Yeah. Yeah. And my version is I'm going to do a go around if it's not perfect. Like I remember one time on a hunt.
Do you ever do no go round spots?
I have, but I try not to. The one I built out in the Tal is a one-way run.
Is it?
Yeah. It's well, it doesn't have to be, but there's a commit point which makes it kind of rough. There's a bail right that you can kind of do, but it's not optimal. But I think the thing about it is I try to tell myself, if it's not perfect, don't just drop it, because I think the tendency when I first started flying is like, my bush wheels are going to save me. I'm just going to drop
it down
in
the river. It'll stop.
And then, but now I'm like, if I didn't hit that spot, like if I didn't hit my spot, and this is something Steve taught me, if I haven't hit the spot, I'll go around. And I try to keep enough mode that I'm going to go around, which means I'm not going to land as short as I probably need to, but I've got options. And
Yeah.
then,
By the way, the Steve Williams podcast, the first podcast we
my
did,
favorite one you ever
still there. You can go back and listen to it.
believe me, I like, it's like
Not you. I'm saying our.
Oh yeah, you should go watch. I mean, it's an out of body experience, and I've flown and trained with Steve. He trained one of my daughters. I think he trained two of my kids. And he is just an absolute force of nature. Like, that guy, he's just an amazing guy in terms of this stuff.
Let's talk about.
But again, he wakes up. He wakes up and puts his arms out like this, and I think he walks around his kitchen like that. And that guy lives to fly.
Yeah.
So that guy's
and all
be good.
these. By the way, anyone that looks at someone and says, "Wow, he's so good," there's hundreds of those in Alaska that day in and day out they're flying.
Yeah.
They get good that way.
Yeah, that's.
And if you were like, "Well, what does it take? Why am I having trouble getting slow or whatever?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're not working every single day, 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and
flying in all kinds of weather.
Yeah, and that's what you have to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, it's like, I fly helicopter. I'm much better at helicopter.
Yeah.
I run more time in it. When I get into a Cub, I'm like, but this is like a religious. To me, it's like a religious experience. The whole thing about it just becomes, I'm like, why don't I do this more? Like, I immediately, as soon as I get back in a Cub, I'm like, why haven't I done this more? Why haven't I? This is so amazing. And then, but unfortunately, I've set up my life that and where I am in my life, I'm just not going to be the great bush pilot. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So I kind of I get to look up from afar and respect it, and help the business by making it a business so that it doesn't go away.
No, you have made a tremendous contribution to Alaska aviation and to aviation everywhere. With what you've done, with what you've sort of organized. You're like a curator of a museum with your, you know what I mean?
Think about how many tushes you've helped with the seats too. I mean,
I've helped a lot of tushes
too.
Yeah, thank you.
I have them in every one of my aircraft.
So speaking of products that people make,
yeah,
you have some really interesting things that you've introduced in the last couple of years. And I'd like to hear the story of those products, starting with, what did you bring today?
Well, let me talk about the rib for a second. That's kind of a cool story aviation-wise. Can you reach it back there? Or what?
Let's get this rib.
And I'll tell you that there's a couple things. We're in a weird hiatus a little bit at Gear Company because.
What do you mean?
Okay, well, I'll explain it. So, there's people that fault me for two things. They fault me because I've turned building parts into a business. But then the other thing people have faulted me on lately is, are you still an aviation company? Like, what is aviation? You changed the name to Gear Company. You're like, he's lost his love of aviation, or he's going somewhere else, he's deserting us, and neither one's true. I think
And
there's some
how do you say
realities.
that that's not true? That you've lost your love of aviation and you're deserting us.
I
How is
think
that
there's,
not true?
I think there's,
Give me an
so
example.
let me break that down a little bit for you, because I mean, that's
Mhm.
probably something that's helpful for people to understand. So I have attacked every area of this Cub space that I can.
Mm-hmm.
I've optimized it. I've brought the products in. I resell other people's products to help the market. I
Mhm.
do all the, there's a lot of people out there that have products but can't build them, don't have PMA, don't have websites. So I
You're
do
making
all
those
that.
products.
I
And
make all this. I do all that for the market, and I've optimized that business. And if you were to break apart gear company's business, it's about half our business.
Mhm. By the way, that's an amazing thing, because if someone had, some guy's retirement age and he has some SDC that he worked really hard to get, and he doesn't have the wherewithal to mass
Yeah.
produce it, market it to the market, do all that stuff, then he sells it to you, and every time you sell one, you throw him
I send
200
him a check.
bucks.
Yeah, I do that all
And
the
so
time.
it's like residual income from him, and now you're selling way more than he would have ever sold.
I do it for the families who own some SDCs now. So
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty legit about that, and I think we charge them a 20% markup, I think, for our services, and then the rest goes to them. But the problem with this space
Mhm.
is, for all the reasons we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, is the growth is not there. Like, I mean, I've attacked everything I can attack that makes economic sense of this aircraft at this point. We have a great engineer, Doug Keller, that works with us, works on our team, and helps us build these products. We've tried things.
he's
We've
amazing, by
rented
the way.
supercomputer space to run flow tests of different We've done everything, but we're at the point where we're hitting kind of maximal case, right? And so, the last product we announced last year, the big product we came out with was tie shock, so the landing shocks, and that was a 4 to 5 year project for us. Very complicated. We're still, I mean, we have our first, I think, 200 sets out, but we're still learning things from our market segment, right? On those, but
I've heard they're the best from people that are using them.
look,
That's all I've heard. I don't know that
I think
for sure.
I think we stand on the shoulders of giants. I think Acme, in the sense that Acme came out and really did a lot of work in the experimental space on the shock. They fundamentally changed the market. But at the time we started our project, they weren't certified. And taking a experimental product and making it certified is a big project and involves a lot of energy, a lot of time. And so we thought we were just going to make the certified version of theirs. It turned out Acme did certify theirs later on.
Dude, what I like, Merry Christmas to the Cub at like off airport market is like, now you have two excellent certified options within like a year.
Yeah. And that was, we were, I didn't mean to do that, but part of it was we're already half pregnant. We're already so far down the line, and we had found things that we could make better. So we found, and again, we're working with our customers. Like, our customers are telling us, yeah, we're flying these and we're doing real bush flying. We're not like flying in some circus, and this is what breaks. So we came out with, I think, ours is the benefit of all that, plus it's the benefit of all that engineering and time. And I think we'll also have a very, we're still working through it right now, but we'll have a more predictable supply chain and process for them, because we're a more formal company. But after that project, there weren't a lot of things we don't have a lot of things we know we want to do. As a matter of fact, a lot of our R&D projects aren't ones, so people will say, hey, they're not doing anything right now. I'm like, well, it's just a year ago I announced this huge project. It's going to be 5 years, but I get faulted for that. But the truth is, the stuff we're working on now is not stuff I can really advertise or market, because what we're doing is we're building products for other airplanes, and they're usually, or for other OEMs. So we're working with Cub crafters and vans for their aircraft on certain things.
Really?
But those aren't things that we're selling directly. We're selling to them, and then
wait, is there something about the vans thing? Is that why you're telling me I should build some sort of vans?
Vans has got some really cool stuff coming out, yeah. But the thing is, these are cool companies. We're working behind the scenes. They're not things I'm delivering to the Cub guy, but it's the way we're going to grow our market and grow our business.
Yeah.
But one of the last things we did was this project, which I guess is kind of a fun one to talk about. It has not been a successful project for us yet. I'll be honest. It's not successful because the market hasn't embraced it yet as much as we'd hoped. But one of the things that's happened in the Cub space is that new ribs have come out, but they're all heavier than the original Cub wing rib.
Right.
And, one of the easiest ways to increase performance on a Cub is to reduce weight. So we went through the process of trying to build an original Piper rib, which is it's kind of non-economical, basically, for the most part, the way it's built compared to, vacuum forming or some of the other ones that are built out there.
Right. It's like 1920s technology. I'm guessing that's in the 20s they were making stuff like that.
And again, I don't have low cost of labor either, because I'm paying literally AK Alaska wages for stuff, and it's complicated. But so what we did, during our R&D for this, we were going to do a whole wing. We still might do a whole wing at some point, but we found a company that still had all the original Piper tooling and were willing to run it for us and build us ribs. And the company's down in Argentina. But anyway, we found a guy who was willing to build them, and then we had to build a PMA process for them because they're being built outside the United States. All the metal that's in these has to be, the provenance of it. Has to. You need to be able to know everything about every part going in,
right?
How it was built, was it built right? So we went through this elaborate process with the FAA to basically get approved a process for them to build them, ship them to the United States, and then to sell them.
Can you quickly, just for people that don't understand parts manufacturing, talk about like just sort of a bullet point of what you need to make a part? Like what needs to happen for that to have that stamp, not this specifically, but in general, for it to have that FAA PMA stamp on it? What does a part need?
So you have to basically, first of all, you have to prove the part is like or better than the original part that was on the aircraft.
And that could be very complicated.
It's super complicated. And there's like 5 different paths to do that. Like you can do comparative analysis. You can do, I have the original drawings. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. And then on top of that, you have to prove that you can build it with fidelity to the drawing. Right?
Fidelity meaning it'll be the same every time.
The same every time. So the FAA sort of focused on 2 things. One is, did you do your homework? Did you do your engineering work? Does the part work? And is it safe? And then can you build it repeatably so that you can guarantee me that the next one that comes out is like the one you said you got approved? That's the 2 phases. And they're both hard.
Yeah.
And depending on the day, I'll tell you a different one's harder than the other, right? Yeah. It all depends.
This is something I was thinking about when you're coming over here. I was thinking about talking to you about these ribs, and it's like the difference between a company that builds experimental parts and someone that builds certified parts.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you buy a Dravron wing, is there any guarantee? Because I was just interviewing the Helio guys, and they were showing me how they stamp these parts out of metal, and the metal's soft.
Yeah.
And when you look at the metal, if it's soft or it's been hardened, it looks the same.
Yeah.
So
you got to do a test.
When they're doing those ribs and stamping them out at Javron, and I'm not picking on Javron, any company
doing it,
right? And then they bring you a wing. How do you know what process they have in place to ensure that one of those ribs was maybe not hardened or not?
So. And I'll tell you right now, we used hardened aluminum for some of our products. Yeah. We've had product show up at our shop where the factory did not harden it properly, and we have to know that. We have to reject that material. God forbid we make the part and send it out. We have to do a recall for it. Yeah, it's intense. But okay, so that's the difference. Right, the difference is in a certified market, we're held to a much higher standard. I can't just go, look, it's the same rib. See, I have to like prove it out like an engineer. Yeah, and.
It's got to have the same structural capabilities.
Yeah.
The same.
Now, when you make a new rib, ribs are really expensive. There's the kinds of loads you have to test a rib on. It's super expensive to come out with a new model, because if you don't just build the original one and you build a new one, well, now it's all engineering, all testing work. It's waffle trees. It's all this stuff to make sure the thing's going to be safe. So what we shot for is, okay, let's just build the original one.
Identicality.
Right? Yeah. And we found a company that would do it for us. Now, the challenge is they're still expensive to make down there. Like I didn't get incredibly cheaper, so they're still expensive. I have to pay to fly. I have to fly materials to them because they can't use their materials because their materials can't be trusted. I have to fly all the rivets down. Everything gets flown down there. They then run it through their presses. They have to then send them back to me. I then need to make sure this rib actually conforms. So that's what we built. You spent a huge amount of money building what's called a go-no-go gauge, which is a way of proving out their work, that everything's in the right spot.
When you say an unbelievable amount of money, I mean, it looks like something you just drafted up and threw in a CNC machine. What else goes into it?
Oh, it's I don't know how you don't have enough time in a podcast.
Just give me an example, because it doesn't seem that complicated to me, and I just want you to give me one example.
Okay, so I mean. I don't even know how to.
Like, is it the engineering of it, or is it?
It's everything. It's like, I mean, I think people forget how much goes into launching a product. Like launching a product, first of all, you got to go through this phase of, am I going to do this or not? And that phase alone is long. It's like, okay, I found a guy. Well, is he a drunk? Does he know how to run the machine?
Yeah, see that
full of crap?
I don't have that expense when I do stuff because I just go, I feel like it's
then I'm going to do then I'm going to do logistics. What does it take to send a crate down there?
Yeah.
How much material? Yeah. How small can I cut it? What kind of waste material is it going to require? What's the state of Argentina right now?
Yeah.
Can I get through customs? Well, I have to pay some dude off. Like, I mean, it's a million.
No, that the whole aspects of logistically doing it down there is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like,
we speak 2 different languages.
And it just
we're using ChatGPT. We're not using WhatsApp to convert Spanish to English.
It goes to show you, by the way, how complicated it is for you to just go get this certified and make it yourself, that you're willing to do all those logistical things.
Yeah.
To get it
so we do, again, I'm a business guy, so we do a market analysis and we say, okay, and there's enough data out there. If you go out to Dakota Cub's website, he tells you exactly how many ribs he's made over the lifetime of the company. You do some math, you kind of go, okay, the market's this.
Right.
But then you go, and okay, we're going to make one that's demonstrably better, but we also knew we're going to make one that was more expensive because it's an expensive supply chain. And then it was like, which ribs to make? Because there's a whole bunch of ribs in a wing.
Okay.
And the truth is, if you're building a wing, you need the ship set, right?
Yeah.
Or half a ship set. And then if you are repairing a wing, there's certain ribs that get dinged up more than others. So what I think we did well in this project is we found a place, we were able to certify it, we worked with the FAA. This is a legitimate FAA PMA rib. You can save a lot of pounds by using.
How many pounds can you save over like a Dakota one?
I can't remember, but go to our website.
Okay.
And by the way, they told me the wrong number first. So I'm actually in a video saying the wrong number and then it ended up being lower.
Oh, okay.
And that's because there's a huge amount of variability out there for what these things actually did weigh. Like you get into this whole point where there was like, I don't know how many Piper factories they were, and they were all doing them slightly different. But
right, of course,
there was a whole bunch of weird stuff like that. But the net is you save weight. So it's the lightest rib, basically.
Yeah.
But except for the original, we're a little heavier than the original because we did increase the width, the thickness of this top cap, because the old one, even in later Pipers, they had increased the size.
Okay, got it.
Because snow load and stuff like that. But I think what we've done wrong on this project to date, we sold a decent amount. But do I know that is it a runaway success like some of our products? No. And I think part of the reason is we're only selling ship sets. So the guy just wants to replace a couple ribs because he dinged it up isn't our customer.
And that's difficult to do, right? Because how do you predict? That's the next product that you show. I have a similar question about that. Like, well, how do you predict?
Yeah, how do you predict that? And I have no idea. I have no data about that. So I decided to sell ship sets. So I have to find someone who's going to rip their whole wing apart and build one who's my potential customer. And that's fewer than the repairs that are out there. Like this whole project to make these ribs, the first 10 sets was like 8 months round trip, right? I mean, it's like, okay, did I get it right? Did I not?
How many sets have you sold?
Of the 10, probably 4. I think the other thing we found out is that when you're doing repairs, it's not just having the right ribs, but the Dakota Cub rib basically comes apart. So if you want to fix your wing and you don't want to pull the spar out, you can basically disassemble your Dakota Cub rib, stick it in, and then reconnect it, and you don't have to pull your spar out. So even as a replacement rib, the original one becomes a little more complicated for customers. So
because you have to take all of them off the end.
Yeah. So I think
you're really making some great points here.
Yeah. Well, I think, and again, I'm not even sure it's legal to pull a Dakota Cub rib apart. I guess it probably is. I don't know. Your people can talk about that on the comments or whatever. But that's what happens in real life. So part of it is, I don't think we got this market right, but it's the most recent thing we released. But it represents hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment.
That's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So
the tie shock was close to $750.
$750.
Yeah.
Has that paid off for you?
Not yet, but we hope it will over 5 years. We have a big backlog right now. The response has been good. Our first shocks out, we had some leaking problems with them because we used a special coating on the shaft, and and that's when beating up one of the bearings on it. So we've changed that in the next round. Just, it's nothing our customers don't know. We've been replacing them as if they leak, because it's supposed to be a lifetime shock.
But these are, so for the
normal things
for the listeners, like, this is the things that you don't think about when you go, well, they're wanting $5,000 for those.
Oh my,
Yeah.
I mean, so what we do is we take what we think we can sell over a 5-year period. We take the cost of the actual materials and the build,
and R&D.
Then we have to amortize out R&D over that number of shocks over that period of time, and that's to break even. That's to break even.
And so after that R&D is paid for and all that, then it is nice to have.
Yeah, and I'll be walking with a cane. But the thing about it is, part of what you're paying for all this time is all the stuff that we have to do.
Right.
Every time someone crashed a Cub, we're going to get a phone call because our part was on that plane. I need people to go handle that. I have audits from the FAA every year. I have parts that show up that don't work, but people mess up. Some CNC machines out of spec, and I get a load. Right. We just did a discount. We came out with a new brake master cylinder. And
it's another product you've released.
Yeah, I released that last year too. People think we don't do enough, but whatever. I don't get that, but whatever. But we're selling a lot of those, but we get a whole batch in that looks like came by horseback to Alaska, and they're all marred up. So, the product's fine, but it's dinged on the outside. So we just did a discount to sell a lot of those off, because I can't sell them as a premium product because they've got a ding.
But you can certify them because the
certified.
Physical aspects of them are
they still pass certification, but you kind of go to a guy and go, here it is, and he goes, what did you do? Drop it on the floor already? But that's good for bush pilots because they get a discount, but it's not good for us. But I got to deal with all that stuff. And by the way, I don't just get to give you this dinged up one. I have to put it through what's called an MRB board, verify that it's actually still safe, document that to the FAA. So it's like
so it's almost like that piece that's dinged up has more paperwork with it.
It does.
But
absolutely. Again, do I want to? And I also don't want to look at all these parts. It's like sunk money. But we sell blem tires as well, and that they have some cosmetic.
Do you have to do the review board on those, on blem tires?
So we have kind of a process for that. So we have a grader that can kind of go through. We don't have to do each one. We do it in our work order system, so we can say this one's being graded blem, which kind of implies the rest of the realities to it. So we don't have to do a separate one because it's kind of a norm for us. Like that product, we run probably a 2 to 3% blem rate in the factory all the time.
Has that improved? That's improved significantly.
It used to be 17%. Yeah.
I remember you gave me a tour over there, and you asked them, "Are we making good tires today?" I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah, I always say that. I'm making good cookies today. Yeah. So I have a great foreman there. We slowed down the production rate. So at some points, like there was a big tire slashing up here, and we started giving away tires at cost to help all the pilots who got slashed. You remember that? A guy.
I don't know. I've just always thought that maybe you'd hired someone to go around. Because I do that with seats. No, I hire this bear. I have a bear that goes around, and he.
Yeah, we got that shit too. But I think the thing about it is, like, we went through a period where we just kind of increased and ramped up production. During COVID, we were selling a ridiculous number of tires, and we were ramping it up, and our blem rates were going up, our reject rates were going up. And we've kind of come back down and kind of said, okay, we're meeting market demand. We're being a little, we're going slower, and we've lowered our blem rate, and we've also just done the engineering. We're about to come out with a big new tire announcement as well, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So we
what is a big new tire announcement like? What do you mean? Like a different model?
Something we've been working on for years.
It's like a 45.
Sorry,
you're coming out with a 45.
It's not going to be
41.
No, it's an improvement to the currents.
Oh, okay.
So we know, like, we get back the warranties. We know what breaks on the tires. We know all that data for all of our tires. It's part of the process of being PMA, and we go back to R&D and we try to fix it.
So, is cracking one of those things?
No, cracking's just aging. But again, even there, like, I'll tell you, there's been a long-standing rumor that the tires we make are not as good as the ones that were made 15, 20 years ago, or whatever, and that we've used cheaper rubber or some crazy stuff like this, which none of that's true. But I deal with it all the time. So, but we actually did do a project. We're probably in year 3 now, where we've gone to a rubber engineer and we've tested out all these different formulas of rubber to see which ones are better. And the results of that we're going to probably announce by year end as well. We're doing some TSO testing now.
Yeah.
But
So the thing I have to say about the rubber is I did have a set of really old bush wheels that were like made in Alaska.
Yeah.
And they were still no cracks on them or anything. And I think that the ones that started cracking, the crack thing was happening in Oregon.
Well,
you know, so I don't.
I'll just say, if you go back, like the original, so there's science, like there's science to all this, right?
Yeah, there should be. It should be pretty easy to figure out.
Should be, right? The original bush tire is literally the guy. The rumor is he would basically put them in the mold. He just put positive and negative power on, and just go to sleep and come out in the morning, open the mold up, put the tire out. Like no design, no technology for it. But it turns out the process of vulcanizing rubber is actually super scientific, super technical. Yeah. The way rubber compounds are built, it's a whole science you can get a PhD in. There's a dual challenge with Cub tires, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a car tire. Our tire has to be infinitely pliable and last as long as possible, which is a very unique mix. Like you don't put that on a race car, you don't put that on a car. And so you're always looking for this pliability magic with durability.
And can we have it be super durable and super light? That's what I want.
So this
I want it lighter and more durable.
Yeah, I want the Goldilocks tire. So we're spending money on that. Like we have a whole project going on. We have test labs that are doing things. We're running tires on dynos. We're doing 1,000-year UV tests on rubber formulas to see what we can make the UV compound. Because a lot of what happens is it's UV damage to a tire that makes it crack. And we've got results back. And there's people out there flying test tires of ours that we won't tell you who they are, but they're flying them. We have, by the way, tires and rubber work differently if you're in Florida than if you're in Alaska. If your ambient temperature is, this is true though. Like, if you're running your tire in Florida and you land on asphalt, half your tire's gone. The thing's soft and mushy. If you're up here at 60, it's going to last longer. But if you're up here and you leave your tire outside, 24 hours of sunlight, you're going to be toast. So we're trying to find the sweet spots and all that. We're trying to get better tread life without hurting pliability, because that's the trade-off. So, it's one of these, we call it the Goldilocks tire. It's like you're trying to balance all these things, and it's a judgment. But the tire formula of the bush tire has never changed since the original TSO.
Really?
Right. So, because that's required.
Right. Yeah, that's another great point you just made there, Shawn. I appreciate you making that.
So we work.
So it's everyone's imagination, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
Yeah. And so I'm like, but we do the work. And again, what my job is not to respond to, the whims and volleys of nature, of what people are saying, but basically I've got engineers and we kind of methodically work through these things, and they take years to work through. Mm-hmm. But we're about to announce a big change to the bush tire. So I brought this because I think it's a product that's interesting. It's not Yahtzee, it's the greatest product ever, but it's an interesting one, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do next with this whole product. So yeah, that's one.
I'll be very interested.
And that's the newest one
to know how you end up sort of making this work, right? Because I think it's really, really cool.
But not everything works out the way you want.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one. And again, I've done R&D projects. I've spent $100,000 on things that I have to just, the technical term is shit can, because they don't really work.
Yeah. So this big project that I always thought this was the sign that you were the most crazy, because I had, years ago, I had this pair of Clark boots. They had like a little zipper on the side, and I really liked them. Yeah. And I liked that I didn't have to untie them, but they still looked like a regular shoe. There's a lot of things I liked about them.
Through the zipper?
I could not, no, they weren't for like going outside. They were like
it was fashion.
Around town shoe.
Yeah.
And I could not find anything that was even close in design or look to that shoe. And I thought I'm going to make myself some shoes. And so I started researching shoemaking and boot making. And it's an incredibly complicated craft. It's not just how it looks. It doesn't need to look good. It needs to function. It needs to work, because it's one of the most important articles of clothing that someone could put on their body for their health and everything. And so I eventually just decided this is like a retirement project to make a pair of boots.
Yeah.
Those people that know how to do that. And not only do you have to make two identical boots, but they have to be a mirror image of each other.
That's right.
which now it's even more difficult.
Yeah.
And so when I heard
I'm assuming you're just talking about one pair, one size.
one pair, one size. Now it's like different foot types and all these crazy things. And so when I heard that you were taking on this other project, I was like, yep, Shawn's definitely crazy.
I'm crazy.
Because how many boots have you manufactured in your life? I mean,
0.
other than this.
So, but are we talking about bunny boots now?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing about bunny boots that you should know, I think, is that it's a vulcanized rubber product, just like our tire. And that's why it's not, whereas you might say.
It's not super out of your space.
It's not super out of our space. So and by the way, it has a waterproof compartment in it, kind of like a BushWheel too. Like there is a airtight compartment inside this boot because that's where the insulation is. So part of it is it's crazy to sound. And then by the way, the other part of it is Alaskan bush pilots all wear them in the winter. Like it does connect. It connects with
it connects with your 200 person market size.
Yeah. And so the theory was, okay, we know about Vulking rubber. We're becoming experts on it. It's our space. We know where the customers are.
Mm-hmm.
No one else is doing it. And so we spent 3 years coming out with this boot, which we launched last year.
And did you buy the patent for the boot, or talk to me about that?
Yeah. So it's all, because it's a military design, it's all public record stuff. So you can literally go and grab the records.
And so intellectually, for IP, what do you own on this design? Do you own this design?
I don't consider us owning anything in terms of IP.
But you changed the design a little
I did.
bit.
And I guess you could trade. I mean, I don't deal with patents. I don't deal with any of that stuff. I'm like, I basically, I want the story to basically protect itself. Like if someone else comes out with these, and by the way, people are coming out with competing ones right now. So, but they're not from Alaska, and they don't.
Is that made in Alaska?
No. So this boot is made in China. So our first boot.
Super judging. I'm kidding. I understand. I understand the
again. The people that judge me probably don't know what we do. But I guess I know a lot of people don't like China right now. But
I realize that's the other thing about you that I do respect is that you have, even though you're holding a product that you sell that's made in China, I do know from experience that you're very passionate about like keeping things in America.
So I'm running this business to make stuff in America, specifically to make stuff in Alaska, but. This tech, the factory to build this boot disappeared in the 80s in the United States. So there is nobody. And to build this factory is like a $10 million proposition minimum. So we had to find a factory that wanted to work with us. And most of them did not, because this is not a standard boot. We finally found one, frankly, crazy factory that makes fire boots, firemen's boots and things like that was willing to work with us. And we went through a whole process with them. And then we had to learn about that whole segment. It was a long project. But the truth is, I now have, I will let you know this is not known yet, which is we now have all the equipment to make these in Alaska. So we ordered all the equipment, the special tanks, the special types of equipment to make a boot. And we can now, our project, by the end of the year, we'll be prototyping boots in Alaska, but we won't be making market quantities. We'll be able to prototype.
Can I hold this?
Yeah.
I think I really like the way it looks.
So that's version 1. So coming out this winter will be version 2. So again,
what's
one
different?
Of the things is, okay, so
where's the little valve that you can?
We didn't put the valve on.
Is there a reason that the valve existed?
The valve, as we've dove into that issue, the reason people think the valve exists probably is not the reason it existed. Like we've learned a lot about the valve over time. So part of the problem do you want me to go into that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so the valve was basically there to apparently relieve pressure on soldiers' feet at altitude. But I don't know why a soldier would be in a non-compressed space. Like they'd be in a non-pressurized space. Like you have to be almost like 20,000 feet for it to be a problem. Like we've done the math on the boot. So like we don't quite get why that was it. But what we did find out is that the valve would have it makes manufacturing easier. So what you've got is this boot gets heated up in Vulc to like 280 degrees Fahrenheit. And the air inside these pressure compartments is expanding during that. And the boot blows up in the Vulc.
Of course.
So the valve, by having it there, you open the valve, you can cook the boot, and then you can positive pressure it, close it down, and it solves a lot of manufacturing problems. We had to come up with a new way to solve that problem.
Forgive me for being ignorant, but if you're wearing one of the older ones, in cold weather and the valve's open, does that affect the temperature?
Yeah, it blows the boot, and if you step in water and water gets into the waterproof compartment through the valve, the boot's dead. It's dead. You'll never get it dry. So that's the problem. That's why we didn't put it on, because when we were talking to the U.S. military about this boot, they're like, more boots have been destroyed by the valve than anything else. Guys forget if it's opened or closed. They sit there and they fiddle with it, and they forget which stance is in.
You can't tell if it's open.
You can't tell, and then they drop them. They drop the parachute guys out, and they land in a swamp, and all the
hooks on their line.
Yeah, hooks on the line. That's another thing they said. So we took it out, and we came up with a new way to cook the boot without blowing it up. That's proprietary.
And the way the front is designed and everything, the old ones had this weird shape to the bottom of it that it's like, I'm going to be sliding around on
weird
ice.
Kind of slipper deal. Yeah, it was almost like it had a high heel on it too. It was like a weird, and we never quite understood that. Some of it was because it had to go into skis and snowshoes and things like that, but we were able to solve all those problems too. But so anyway, here's what happened. So we came out with our first version, but again, we're an R&D company. Really, it's the aviation roots to it all. I view it all as being very similar. I know people don't, but it's like bulking rubber is what we do. We actually do that all in Alaska. We now can build.
People flying skis need boots.
Yep, they all need boots.
Totally makes sense.
And then we're an R&D company, so we take the same approach to the boot. We consider it a critical piece of equipment. We do it through the same process for it. We're not just winging out boots.
Yeah.
And frankly, the factory we work with has been a great partner. They've been phenomenal. I've been there. I've worked with them heavily. I've spent time with them. But we did have some failures on the first boot. So
what was failing?
So a couple things. One is in our design, these laces are touching the rubber, and as you flex and hike, so some people buy bunny boots and they're standing in them. That's it. Other people are hiking 20 miles in them. And those are people working with them. And when they do that, this lace has chewed through the rubber and caused a fail along here during just 1 year of use. So the new boot has a neoprene sleeve that goes up here that keeps the lace from hitting the rubber. There's another thing you're going to see in the version 2 boot that's coming out. I think we're calling it VBX Max is the new name for the boot.
When it comes to the rubber, are you using the same rubber that they originally did? Because I mean that stuff was what's the deal with that?
So this rubber. So this is another rubber formula. We're using kind of what modern science thinks is the best rubber formula thing you would find in any rubber boot you found. And specifically, we're using one that's used for a fireman's boot. So this is like a formula the factory had that's used in a bunch of commercial, interesting type of applications. So the one thing we changed was that we had a bunch of people horse this thing off. So we changed the way that gets attached to the boot up here. So all these things get tested in the lab. So unlike people think we kind of wung it. I mean, I hear all this stuff, but
kind of wung it.
Yeah, like there's a lab we go to, which they have built a sweating human size 10 left foot that's controlled by a computer, and it's in a lab, and it's inside this chamber, and they can change the temperature and everything on it.
Wow.
And these boots get sent there, and they put the boot on, and they run through cycles, and they go through, and then they give us back a heat map of the boot and how it performed, and that's how we know if the boot works or not.
So does it work?
Yeah, but people who did complain, the most extreme people. So basically, for the most part, we didn't. So our failure rate on the first year of boots was, I forget, it was like 2% or something like that, which is not bad for your first year.
No, it's not bad.
And then out of those, I think like 15 people complained that the boot they got cold feet in the boot. And we're like, well, what's that about?
That's kind of,
That's critical.
It's critical.
But again, if you have that few people out of selling 6,000 pairs of boots,
do they rate boots like they do sleeping bags and stuff?
It's full BS. All the rating systems are BS.
Yeah.
So we went right back to core. We actually do the real test in a real lab. But they don't give you a rating. They give you, because what is the rating for this boot? What's the R factor here versus the R factor here versus the R factor here? You need the R factor around your whole foot in various decisions to make it. It's not going to give you an overall rating. But so we went through all the warranties that happened, and we basically said, okay, what do we do better on the next boot, right? Because we're going to go do a new season boot. And the new one's this is called the VBX. The next one's going to be called VBX Max. And this is still a great boot. We'll be selling this boot this coming year too. But we have another one for like the old timer guy running a trap line north of Fairbanks, minus 70. By the way, plenty of those guys said it was the best boot they ever had, but then there were some that said they got cold feet right here.
And so that's interesting. So it is sort of legitimate what they were saying, since everyone was experiencing the same.
So there was a common thread that there was a cold part right here. So we went and looked at that and we said, okay, well, what could this be? And again, you come down, and everybody who said that, we sent a new set of boots to and said, try these, because we didn't know if it was because until you cut the boot, you don't know if it was a manufacturing defect or a design defect. So we did that, and most of them never called us back, but we don't take that as a success. We kind of view it as they might not have been at -60 again. What we found, though, is that the way our waterproof compartments connect, there's sort of this gap right in this area where, right below this tongue, where it's very easy for them to mess them up in production when they're manufacturing. If you don't get that overlap perfect, you can get a gap there.
Oh.
And we're like, okay, our theory,
like a gap in the insulation?
Yeah, because you're trying, because at this point, the boot has to be flexible so that this comes in like this. And we have this massive gusset on here. And then there's two airtight compartments that kind of converge above the foot. So you have to kind of break away from that and get into something you can close open. So we think that was probably where they had the problem. Most people didn't. And by the way, when you're dealing with whether people's feet get cold,
that's a very difficult thing to like.
You have people, you got a guy with like literally no cardiovascular health, smoking 3 packs a day, telling us his feet get cold, and then you got to, that doesn't mean a lot. The guy's got no, because basically this boot on the neck.
You're insulting your customers. That's perfect. You're insulting customers now. That's perfect.
You understand the reality of this space is really fascinating.
Yeah. I can imagine how frustrating it would be from seats when people call me and say, this doesn't fit. Then I go, well, like, what do you mean? Like, send me some pictures. Like, oh, you're putting the wrong one on the, dude, turn it around, So, but it's physical. I can see it, but it's like, you can't see their feet. You can't really know what's going on.
No,
so I can imagine it would be frustrating.
There's so many variables. And,
so what have you done to fix that?
So the other thing, this neoprene piece we put in that protects the lace from here also adds an R factor to the front tongue, so that the front tongue has some R factor on the outside of the boot. So neoprene is kind of funky. It's what a lot of modern boots use for insulation, but it doesn't bulk well, and it's not as good as this, as what we do with the waterproof felt compartment. But we thought, hey, what if we put it out here to solve this problem and we cover that gap? And then we actually raised this gusset design, the way this whole part of the boot connects. We just made the design more fault tolerant, so that as you're building thousands of them, you don't make a mistake there. Because these are hand built. So those are really the main changes. I think we've also brought the laces up higher. Like, this is an old version, but the new one has laces that go up a little higher for people.
Yeah.
Some people ripped out these eyelets. So now we have these we have our own custom eyelet now. So they would yank on this so bad that it would pull out of the rubber.
That's pretty incredible, actually, that they yank that out.
But the new boot has this Mongo one that's like, won't come out.
I love that the improvements, by the way, that you're making are making the boot last longer. It's like, you're screwing yourself.
So this is the new one. You want to see what the new one looks like? I know your users probably can't.
So
see that's the new Connect.
But this doesn't have the neoprene.
This one has So this is what we call the mid. So this is the Alaska 5 bunny boot, badass bunny boot. This is our fashion bunny boot.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's like,
so it's half the insulation. It's a mid, so it doesn't go up as high. For anybody in the lower 48, it would be the best boot they've ever owned, warm-wise, but it's not as crazy as this boot. Not as extreme as this boot. And those things I was telling you about, they're all fixed on this one. So, like, this is the new. You can haul a truck.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull on that.
And then these are the new connectors that we've designed.
Yeah.
And this is a prototype too, but this boot comes out, it's going to come out in like 6 colors, and it's going to look like this, and it's going to be a mid that they can use. And by the way, this is how I get out of the small cohort. I prove it here. I make it Alaska. I win my local market, and then I build an exportable version that I can sell to millions.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love it. They did. Yeah, I mean, you're a smart guy,
Another one.
Have you ever thought about making a competitor to the Extra Tough?
Oh yeah, that's next.
Okay.
Oh, we're taking on Extra
Thank you.
Yeah, we're bringing it back.
Do you mind telling me how much you bet on this initially? Is it bringing its money back? I mean, I'm just really curious.
So the first year, if you took, so we did really, so unlike this product in the first year, we sold over 6,000 pair. That was enough to pay for all the R&D.
What was the first batch? How many were in that first batch?
10,000 pair.
10,000.
So we sold 6 of them.
Okay.
And we had to guess on our size curve. We had to guess on what demand would be. It was pretty crazy, but we were able to cover in the first year the R&D, the boot purchase of 10,000 with our revenue, and then we were able to, and we also proved the market enough that we spent twice that this last year. So like we now own all the equipment to make these things. We're doing all these R&D projects. There's like I don't know how many different versions are. There'll be like 5 or 6 versions next year. So we're plowing. I mean, do I make money? No, I plow every dollar back in.
Yeah, but you bet like a couple million into this, or
yeah, that was I think 2 million into that. Then through the first year, it's 2 million in. This year I think we'll have spent like 4 million. But again, it's a risk, but it's one of these things where we went. It's I mean, by shoe standards, that's a small amount.
Right.
But
yeah, that makes
for
sense.
us, it's a big deal. We also are coming out with a North Slope version, which is a version that has puncture-proof resistance. It has a composite toe on it, for working with heavy equipment and machines.
So when you do a version, do you have to buy 10,000 of that version?
No,
you can do like
now working with us. We can do. It's kind of they call them MOQ. So I think the MOQ for any model is like 2,000, but again, you're working on it for a year and a half before you even make production. Right. And it's a huge project.
I love it, dude. I love it.
So, yeah. So, and again, what we're trying to do as a business is find places to grow and take, I love the aviation, but I can't, where am I going to go? Like I told you where I'm going in OEM markets. And this is a way of taking a market and seeing if we can't get it, into the, like my dream is an East Coast soccer mom wearing this to watch her kid play soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I get that, I got a big market.
I love it. And the one thing I would say, I guess, from my experience, you have a passion for aviation in Alaska. You have a passion for Alaskan businesses.
Yep.
And you also don't want to be held down by like small markets and things like that. So you're doing things that are crazy and cool, but you're still like committing to that and releasing aviation products at the same time. It's awesome.
You have to. Like, I mean, look,
you don't have to. You could just be like, hey, we're a boot company now.
Well, okay, so yeah, at this point, we're kind of like boots, bags, and airplanes, right? That's kind of what we are right now. I mean, it's kind of like, what I would say is, if I want to build a long-standing business that's just not some cult of personality of me that stands here and works here and builds jobs here and exports the Alaskan story out, I got to think big, and I have to go. I think there's a tendency, a lot of people in Alaska, they don't like that. They don't want to do that. They want to keep it small, they want to keep it, boutique-y. And I guess I guess you fault me for that. I don't want to stay small. And because to me, small, if you're not growing, you're dead basically. So, I'm not building it to build an annuity for me. I'm trying to build a business of value. Again, my story for Alaska is not, everybody won't agree with it clearly, but from my perspective, I'd like to build businesses here that own the story here and provide jobs here and monetize things here, right?
It's like legitimize Alaska somewhere other than fish, tourism, or oil.
Yeah, get a more expanded economy. Like, and I have kids. Like, where are my kids going to work? I've high performing kids, and where will they get jobs? Are they going to be able to live in Alaska, or are they going to have to go to the lower 48, or where are they going to go? Like, can we have a more balanced economy here? I actually just did a big trip to Iceland to look at Iceland because it's a pretty interesting comp for us to kind of compare what they're doing to here. But one of the things I did in my research is when I was in government, I asked my White House handler to shadow Don Young when I was in the White House. And I'll never forget this line so I got to walk around with him to, a day in the life of Don Young. And I didn't live in Alaska at the time, but I told him I was moving here, and he's like, well, why are you moving there? And he's going through this whole stuff. And I followed him around. The guy's a total character. There's all kinds of funny memes with him. But at one point we sit down to lunch, and they bring in kind of the subs, and he says, what you need to understand about Alaska, son, is he goes, Alaska is the world's greatest libertarian welfare state. And that was his line. It's like,
what does that mean?
It's the world's greatest libertarian welfare state.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, he goes, He goes, yeah, everybody in Alaska wants to be left alone, wants to live a libertarian existence, and they want someone else to pay for everything. And that was his line to me.
Yeah.
And I've constantly, as I kind of mine this area and trying to figure out how to run a business here and find employees and, deal with people who think I'm doing the right thing, the wrong thing, I come back to this line from Don Young, which we have a very fascinating existence up here.
Yeah.
We don't pay taxes. We get paid to live here. A couple of key markets, the federal government, oil basically pay for most of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we charm ourselves into thinking we're libertarians and we've solved it all on our own, which we haven't. And I think, I was in Iceland, and I think one of the best examples I saw of it was, how, it's like you go to Iceland, you feel like Iceland's marketing itself to the world, right?
Really?
Yeah, you really do. You're in the airport, and it's like everywhere you turn, you can't get out of the terminal without walking through a whole thing of Icelandic made products. You can't even get around it. You have to walk through it. It's part of that flow.
Wow.
One of my favorite parts of the Icelandic airport was there's no seating at the gates. You have to go to the gate only when they're about to board. You can't just sit there and wait like you can in the United States airport. You go there and you have to get on the plane because there's no place to sit.
Yeah.
But where you do get to sit is back with all the Icelandic products.
Okay.
So you can go back to the main core.
Perfect.
And I was fascinated by this. And everywhere you went, there was a video montage of an Icelandic company.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just pushing their story on everybody who came through that airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back to the Alaskan airport, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, ConocoPhillips has an ad telling you how great they are for Alaska. The Native Corps would put up things saying, and I'm like, what are they actually selling me? I don't know what they're selling me. They're selling me anything.
Yeah, there's no decisions from the consumer to be made, right?
And and then there was one Kuyu ad that looks like it's like 5 years old. But it was I feel like, again, I don't know if my story and what I look to achieve out of Alaska and being a businessman is shared by anybody but me. But I'm still going to go pursue trying to build a big business up here. At least until my wife tells me I have to stop.
Because you're crazy.
Because I'm crazy, and that's the kind of thing I chewed in.
I like that. I'm going to think about that a lot, because that is, it's something I never thought about, of that maybe Alaska's missing this part in their economy, and more people need to start businesses up here. Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for watching. You obviously enjoyed this content, so please subscribe to our channel, comment, let us know what you thought. And if you want to support our ability to make more episodes, visit coffeeinahangar.com and subscribe to our email list. Thank you.